Tajeda sits in the room with his back to her and looks at her wrecked, visually destroyed home after Kato's angry outburst. She isn't understanding why when she picks up her broken phone there are texts from her to many unsaved numbers. Questions are running through her mind, but it's hard to focus. It's clear he is angry, but she keeps trying to tell him that she doesn't understand it either. He tells her to come here and he lays his head on her in the bed. A bunch of kissing, caressing, and plain old love calms the troubled temper. His phone begins to ring again. He tells her to answer it. She answers it, but no one says a word. She hears what seems like a woman sigh loud, and angrily at hearing Tajeda's voice she hangs up the phone. Tajeda's phone begins to ring and he snatches it and says hello. Tajeda doesn't really care, but wants to make sure it isn't her family. What is happening? He seems visually agitated and Tajeda is getting nervous. She sits up in bed and asks why these calls are coming in on his phone and does he need to go handle something. As she asks these, he looks over at her and says, "I messed up and you aren't going to want me after this." Tajeda instantly gets scared. "What do you mean, you messed up?" He says, "Promise me you won't stop," and she says, "Just tell me, we can fix it together." Tajeda says, "I don't know what it is, but you are scaring me." He says, "I'm always messing up the things I want with things that mean nothing to me." At this moment, he's irritating Tajeda, prompting her to sit up and pull on her sweatpants. She listens, yet he remains quiet about the issue, even as both of their phones are blaring. He urges her to lie down and starts to list the things they will do for the baby. Resting on her thighs, he decides to steal more kisses. She is not falling for it and wants to know why everyone is acting suspicious. Before he will tell her they became intimately intertwined too. She was quite surprised that he held none of his essence from her again. Although she was upset and laid there in protest, it was enjoyable. They lay there in bed and are loving and kind all night. He makes a few requests of her, says he wants her to move in. She is confused because it all seems like yesterday he wasn't so connected. She had felt him hot and cold recently, and today he is turning up the heat. In so many ways it was beautiful, from them watching the movies in Spanish to the shows of Kung Fu masters. It was beautiful except for the nausea. She didn't understand why he was agitated every time he looked at his phone. It reminded her of the thing he said something about she might leave him. She gazed at him suspiciously as he sat at the kitchen counter. With the baby being a night owl, she frequently was hungry in the middle of the night. Every time she walked past the counter he kissed her belly and said he wanted another girl and they should come up with names. She was glowing inside. When she went to the bathroom to vomit after the meal, the baby is a finicky one and frequently made her toss up the meals. She came out to him on her phone again and her heart skipped a beat. Not because she had done anything, but it was just a feeling of unease. Her kimono was dropped to the ground as the baby kept her warmer than usual. Seeing this, he placed her phone down and asked that she come sit. She had hoped he would notice and quickly ran to submit. He told her some story about how he always has loved her. He said he didn't know why he did the things he did, and that he will always chose her. She asked what he meant by chose 3 and he was silent. He asked her to promise it was real and said he was about to make it a big deal. She chuckled, "Of course it is." That's the last that she remembers of the night, but she was so uncomfortable that in the morning she sprang up at 4 a.m. Shortly after her, his alarm began to alert. While he was breathing hard but never snoring, she went downstairs while he washed himself and made him some breakfast. He came downstairs and was 59 kissy and kind. He said he didn't have time for breakfast, but she sent a sandwich. He made her promise that this is really what she wants. She said, "Of course it is." He said, "I want you at my house tonight." They kissed. He left. She noticed a bottle looks like it hit her window.